witch dwells to the east of Midgard, in the forest called Ironwood. In that wood dwell the troll women, who are known as Ironwood-Women. The old witch bears many giants for sons, and all in the shape of wolves. These lines from the Prose Edda describe a dark and mysterious figure from Norse mythology called Angrboda or Angrboda. Angrboda is a jötunn or giantess, most famously known for bearing some of the most fearsome monsters in Norse mythology. She has many children, among them the werewolves or shape-shifting jötunns, who roam about in the darkness of Ironwood Forest. As the excerpt from the Prose Edda said, among these jötunn werewolves were two famous creatures, the wolf Hati, which means one who mocks, and Sköll, which means one who hates. These two wolves were in constant pursuit of the moon and sun across the skies. It's generally agreed that Hati chased the moon and Sköll chased the sun, but there is some disagreement. Either way, when the dark day comes and they catch their prey, it will be one of many signals of the beginning of the Norse end times, Ragnarok. But Angrboda's influence over the end times doesn't stop there. With Loki, she bore 3 monstrous children, the world serpent Jörmungandr, the wolf Fenrir, and the half-living, half-dead ruler of the underworld, Hela, also called Hel, the same name as the realm she presides over. These monsters have their own parts to play in bringing sorrow to the world. Jörmungandr, the world serpent, is so huge he encircles all of the oceans of Midgard, and is said to bite his tail in the symbol of the Ouroboros. Eventually he will let go of his tail and throw the land into chaos as the final battle of Ragnarok begins. He will do battle with his greatest enemy, Thor, and the two are destined to kill one another in the end. Fenrir, the giant wolf who could break any chain, was finally tricked into being bound by a special magic chain until Ragnarok. When the end comes, Fenrir will break free of his bindings and battle the Allfather himself, Odin. Fenrir is destined to kill Odin, and one of Odin's sons will avenge the Allfather by tearing Fenrir's jaw off his body. And finally, Hel, ruler of the underworld of the same name. Hel, the realm, is the place where souls go if they died of old age or sickness, as opposed to dying in battle and going to Valhalla. Also in Hel is Nastrond, the corpse shore, where the worst offenders were sent to the lair of the dragon Nithhogr. Murderers, adulterers, and oath-breakers were sent here. To signal the beginning of Ragnarok, a special soot-red rooster will crow in Hel, and he will be one of 3, with the other 2 being in Valhalla and Jotunheim. When Odin and the other gods learned that Loki and Angrboda had created these creatures who were destined to bring about the destruction of the gods, Odin would not stand for it. He demanded the children be brought before him, and he first flung the world serpent into the sea, where it grew and grew over time until it encircled the oceans. He sent Hela to Niflheim, the realm of darkness and fog, and gave her dominion over those who died in old age or sickness. To clarify, Hel and Niflheim are not necessarily the same place, but it's hard to say. It might be more accurate to imagine Hel as being one part of Niflheim. The issue comes from Snorri Sturluson's Prose Edda, which was trying to bring together stories from the earlier poetic Edda, which was not necessarily concrete in its descriptions. Finally, Odin and the other gods raised the wolf Fenrir in order to keep an eye on him, who they fear the most of Angrboda's children. But as time went on, Fenrir grew at an alarming rate, and the gods decided to bind him. However, they found that no chains could hold the beast, not until they hired the dwarfs of Svartalfheim to forge a chain that could hold Fenrir. The dwarves created a chain made from things like the sound of cats' footsteps, the roots of mountains, the breath of fish, etc. These occult items really just symbolize things that don't exist and are therefore impossible to break. Also, in some versions of the story, it's not a chain, but a very light piece of ribbon. Fenrir, who was no dummy, knew something was up when the gods showed up with their new toy and challenged him to try and break free from it. He agreed to do so in order to show his strength, but on one condition. One of the gods must place their hand in his mighty jaws until he broke free, and if he failed and they did not release him, someone would lose a hand. Well, none of the gods were brave enough to do that, except for Tyr, who is sometimes called the Norse god of warfare. Tyr, who had also been the only god brave enough to feed Fenrir as he grew, placed his hand in the wolf's mouth, and the magic bindings were placed over Fenrir. Tyr knew what he was doing here. This was a sacrifice to maintain the order of the cosmos. The great wolf struggled and struggled but could not break the magic chain of the dwarves. When the gods laughed and set off to leave him to his fate, Fenrir bit down and took Tyr's hand, and he waits for Ragnarok. So, Angrboda wasn't just a consort of Loki. She was mother to many embodiments of chaos and doom, and a powerful witch. It's easy to see why Loki, himself a god of chaos and destruction, would be drawn to her, and why the gods would so fear the offspring of these two figures.